Where the heck is the next Tales game? Alright, listen, you gotta understand. I've been a Tales fan for so long. I played all the 3D games, at least the one Bamco decided to give us. I've read up on the lore and character backgrounds. I plan on emulating the games I have no way of playing legally. I mean, what? I plan on legally purchasing the remaining games I have no way to play. And I made a video surrounding the series that gave my channel a big help in terms of engagement. It's not too well known of a fact, but I love the Tales series. I've been patiently waiting for the next installment after Berseria blew my socks off, but man, it really has been over 2 years and we haven't seen anything. That's longer than the time jump between Exilia 1 and Exilia 2. Come on now. Okay, hyperbole aside, I understand and am glad they're taking their time. Maybe they're doing just that to make the best Tales game ever. Or maybe they're just using up a lot of the resources on a mobile game that'll last a year in every region before it becomes Japan exclusive. Whatever the case, all this time without a new entry in my favorite, no. Objectively, the best video game franchise has me antsy. When I get antsy, I start speculating. What can be expected of the next Tales game? Well, we've got a few minutes, so let's raise our hopes and imagine what could potentially be in store from this amazing franchise. Of course, this is based on various aspects I personally love, as well as ideas that can only stem from my head, so please, if you have any thoughts you'd like to share, do just that. I mean, I did ask on Twitter. That's your cue to follow me on Twitter. As for me, well, for the next Tales game, we absolutely need a new engine. Look, I think the Exilia, Zestiria, and Berseria are all great looking games from an art direction standpoint, and in some cases straight up technical aspects. But man, is it lazy that for 4 games in a row, we haven't had a true update in graphical qualities other than jumping up another console generation. Arguably not even, because both Zestiria and Berseria can run on the PS3. Yikes! I'd love for all this time to have been spent on developing a brand new engine with graphics that only next-gen consoles can run at a smooth 60 FPS. Just don't make them too good that they can't run at the same specs on the Switch, because that console was meant for Tales. That console was meant for literally everything because it's a dang good system, but mainly it was meant for Tales, trust me. If it were up to me, I'd go for a sort of updated look to Vesperia, and by that I mean super duper awesome cel-shaded graphics. It's objectively the best video game art style, so I mean, why not? It lends itself incredibly well to the franchise, and the Switch needs another anime JRPG with vibrant cel-shaded graphics. Vesperia Definitive Edition is great, but come on, let's have another. Oh. While we're on the topic of presentation, I'm hoping Motoi Sakuraba works with Goshina again, because I feel like he makes some of the series' finest soundtracks. He composed Legendia on his own, which used to be my favorite OST in the franchise, but it was later topped by Zestiria, which, guess what, was composed by Motoi Sakuraba and Goshina. It's clear to see that the man makes great music, so put him back on the job. No offense to Motoi Sakuraba or anything, Theme of Velvet still brings me to tears, but I love Goshina's approach to a unique, quality-filled soundtrack. Whoever can give me that, I'm cool with. I just love Goshina's work so much. Goshina, you go Goshina. As for story, I can only hope for something as good as their high points. I'm not too worried about that though, because one of said high points was the most recent entry, Berseria. I loved how that game differentiated itself from the others by making the development of the narrative affect the cast, rather than having the development of the cast affect the narrative. It was an interesting twist to Tales storytelling, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing something like that again. Either way, just make sure we get great characters, which is all but guaranteed to happen, not worried about this in the slightest. And let's also make sure that our themes are a bit more subtle this time. For as much as I love Berseria's story, take a shot every time you hear the words will and reason. You'll be seeing some weird things, I'll tell you that. Back to characters though, I want to request that we have another villain built up across the entirety of the game. Abyss and, again, Berseria did this the best, and I'd love for that approach to a villain to make a return. On top of that, I want another team of characters to act as foils to the main party. Villains, antagonists, whatever you call them, they act as rivals to the main cast, making for incredibly well-developed relationships between opposing characters. I miss my Chimeriad and God Generals dynamics already, give me more of them. Finally, and this is something Berseria didn't do, so it can actually be a new idea for Bamco, but I want to go back to a concept Grace has brought to light. A party member that eventually detaches themselves from the group and becomes a major, if not the major antagonist. If this were to be our big bad this time around, I'd love that, as it not only developed our final enemy over the course of the entire game, but it'd be a new idea. Some of you might be thinking, well, if you got this idea from Graces, then obviously it's not new because they already did it. And to that I say, well, just play Graces and you'll see that they had this this cool, great idea and totally ruined it. I don't want to say exactly how because spoilers, but for those who finished the game, you know what I mean. That'll be a part of a rant for another day. Don't you worry, you'll get your Graces F spoiler-heavy story rant someday. Yes, you will. That was always one of the biggest missed opportunities of that game's narrative and one I've been wanting to see done right, so why don't we do that? That brings us to the gameplay. Now, I have a lot of opinions in regards to this, but I don't want this video to go on too long, so I'll keep it brief. I still think that Graces F had the best combat in the entirety of Tales, so I'm glad we've been developing off that game's combat system. To be fair, neither of the two games that built off of it did so enough to top it, but that's what this next game's for, right? Some ways to fix Graces F's combat are making better bosses for one, giving us a proper overlimit gauge in the style of either Vesperia or Abyss, having a skill system that's easy to understand unlike the overly complicated recent entries, give us a combo system between different tiers of arts much like Vesperia so that higher numbers feel earned, make weapons have more uses than just higher stats, encourage 4-player co-op unlike Zestiria and the Exilia games that were more about 2-player co-op, and finally add online multiplayer. That was a lot, so why don't we break it down a little? I feel like Tales bosses of recent have been like sitting ducks for you to get 100+ hit combos on. Remember in older games when they'd tech out with a counterattack and you'd have to use the game's deeper mechanics to retaliate? I want something like that, or at least give them progressing phases so that the bosses change up and I have to switch strategies in order to come out on top. Not to mention they don't really use the mechanics the game gives you, the player, so it makes them kinda easy and a bit boring. I don't know, just make them more interesting than they have been because the better bosses in the later titles have been fewer and further between. As for the overlimit, both Zestiria and Berseria didn't even have one, and what's up with that? It not only added more strategy to combat, but acted as a more streamlined way to power up your character on a dime and activate the special attacks. Mystic Arts are a bit more of a hassle to activate now, so I want this sense of control to make a return. Not to mention giving bosses access to overlimits again could help out in the challenge department, huh? Here's a question for you. What the heck happened to the skills in these games? Every single entry was super easy to understand while being unique and emphasizing growth over the course of a JRPG. But in Zestiria and Berseria, I don't understand any of this, which sucks because I love getting those extra boosts in strength and whatnot, as well as giving characters their own extra perks through skills. So it's a shame that they've been reduced to such an ugly state. Like, dang, skills used to be cool. In regards to combos, I suppose that depends on whether or not AC comes back, or some form of that anyway. What could be a cool thing is that you can chain whatever arts you want while you have AC, but once you run out, you can keep the combo going so long as you use the new game's potential super chain abilities, and link arts in a strict order. I'd also appreciate it if not every single art could be linked to one another. I much preferred it when only some arts would flow together with one another, while others were clearly made to begin a chain or finish one off. Something along those lines so that you have to earn your high number combos again. It's one of the reasons Vesperia's combo system works so well and feels so right. As for weapons, while they don't necessarily need to be the game's skill system, perhaps they could bring their own perks, like some having longer reach than others, being more made for art attacks, being lighter and faster, so on and so forth. Just make it so that a weapon doesn't become useless as soon as you make it to the next town for the one with the bigger numbers. When I say make the game more suited for 4-player, I mean that whatever new shtick this game's combat brings, don't make it along the lines of Exilia and Zestiria, where two characters work together to do the cool thing, but two actual humans can't do said cool thing. Like in Exilia, it's all about linking, but funnily enough, two humans can't control two characters that are linked. Only one human can play per pair, and that's kinda dumb. Then in Zestiria, two characters literally fuse together, so that obviously can't work. Whatever is decided on, just make it so that everyone can do it and do it to its fullest potential. Like Graces F's Excel mode or Abyss's Field of Phonons. Just make sure that said thing is more interesting than the Field of Phonons, please. Oh snap! Finally, there's online multiplayer. I gotta be honest, I'm really shocked that this series hasn't done this feature yet. I have tons of people who I would love to play with in other parts of the world, so let me. We can have people hosting rooms and the host will be the player who walks in the overworld while everyone else participates in battle. That way we don't have to have the camera be zoomed out all the time since everyone will play on their own screen and we can keep the dynamic camera angles. Everybody wins! Of course, communication would be important since there'd have to be a shared inventory and whatnot, so in-game voice chat would be a necessity. I mean, my friends and I would most likely be playing on the Switch, so Discord's probably gonna be our best friend, but for the PlayStation, PC, and Xbox One users, if we're feeling nice, they should get the option that the Switch should have included in their online service. That's a topic for another day, but it still hurts. And let's not forget about the overworld and towns. I'd love for another Zestiria overworld with the scaling and scope of the world being at an all-time high. There was also a lot of optional dungeons and areas to explore, making for a very engaging world to travel on. Give me something like that again, where I'm really encouraged to explore and rewarded for doing just that with tough optional enemy encounters and secret treasures aplenty. Maybe stuff like the winged boots, high-level overlimits, and sorcerer's rings could be found in hidden dungeons and whatnot. Oh yeah, the sorcerer's ring. It's time to come back, fam. I miss when every single dungeon had a cool puzzle to differentiate itself from the others outside of just having different aesthetics. I mean, I get it, Tales games are about the combat and having simple dungeons was never an issue for me. That being said, having dungeons that were complex and had a lot of love put into them only acted as a plus, with the biggest example being in Symphonia. Every single dungeon changed the use of the Sorcerer's Ring to handle its puzzles, and while we don't have to go about this in the exact same manner, something along the lines of that would be nice. Heck, we don't necessarily even need a Sorcerer's Ring so long as the puzzles could work without something to activate various contraptions and whatnot. I just think having larger dungeons with more complex puzzles would beef up the game a bit without padding it out. I loved them so much, and even the annoying ones in Symphonia were fun to go through, except the Wind Temple near the beginning of the game. That one can kiss my ass. Reaching out to you all on Twitter about this upcoming game was a big reason why I wanted to do this video, because I knew you all would give me great answers. But you all blew me out of the water with your fantastic ideas. Someone was gonna cover in this video, but you guys handled them for me, so thanks. I'm showing them all now, but I'll give special highlights to a few of my favorites. Soulstoke Spin hopes for a topical theme this time around, like possibly another modern setting like Exilia 2. This was one of the things I was gonna bring up, because the medieval fantasy setting, while great, could use a bit of a break in favor of something entirely different. Not to mention, like she said in a follow-up to her tweet, this could allow for entirely new classes or new spins to the same ones we've already gotten, and having completely new playstyles in the party would be so cool. Lunabelle23 wanted this too, so hello Bamco, the demand is here. What's good? Nerd Aqua brought up a great point about wanting characters to be as expressive as they were in Abyss, and while I do feel like the previous games have been getting faces right, I would also love more cartoony memey stuff like my Abyss babies. And finally, Gentleman Gamer 1 bringing up the gospel with one simple wish. Bamco, just put it on the Switch. Disregard the rest of my statements. Whatever they decide to do with this next entry, I and pretty much all of the people who reply to my Twitter post just want something fresh, something innovative, something, well, ambitious. We love the Tales series, and odds are we're gonna buy it unless it looks awful, but this is a franchise that constantly delivers regardless. It just so happens that if they try to go crazy with new ideas and angles at tackling similar concepts, it'd make for one heck of a memorable, great time. I'm admittedly frustrated that we don't know anything about our next Tales, but that's just because I'm so excited for what could be. But until the day comes where we get our huge reveal, I'll just be sitting here waiting, because I know whatever we get is gonna be fantastic. But seriously, show up at E3, have my fucking babies. Hello, you made it all the way to the end. That's kind of wild. Thank you so much for watching this whole video. It really helps me out in terms of YouTube recommending me. Not to mention that it just means a lot that you find me entertaining enough to stick around. I check those analytics. Not a lot of people make it this far, so seriously, thank you. If you liked what you saw and want to support me in more ways than a subscription, there are a couple ways to do just that. The most prominent one, and what I ask of you all the most, is donating to my Patreon. It supports me in more ways than you'd imagine, and for just $1 a month, you get early access to my videos, creator notes where I blog my thoughts on every video project, access to my Discord and a private chat in said Discord, along with access to the patrons only Revolutionary podcast for even more content from me. I also have a Twitter, so if you want more random opinions, takes, and interactions, then follow me there at ZaffreRevo. It's a blast. Finally, I stream on Twitch every so often, again at ZaffreRevo, so follow me there. I stream both there and on YouTube so I can hit both audiences, so follow that account just so you can catch all my streaming goodness. Any way you support me is greatly appreciated, with special shoutouts to my lovely god tier patrons who I'll proceed to thank right now. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to Ben, Cleric Eric, Comic Foil, Corbett, Flowergrar, Forever Fizz 8, Gaius, Gentleman Gamer, Jacob Horner, James V, Kimpy7, Michael Douglas, Mitchie, Neolab, Shadow the Cat, Steve Appleman, Tex-Mex, and Xenolith. I love you all. I love you all so much. And I love you, the viewer. You gave me a chance, and that means more than you could ever know. This ending has been going on for a while now, so why don't we stop here? Thank you one last time, I promise, and I hope to see you all next week. Have a great day, you deserve it, and stay awesome. Bye-bye!